Hello, my name's Dan Spinks and welcome to Antifragile Radio, where I aim to discuss concepts of anti-fragility, what that is, through various lenses, experiences and viewpoints. We'll talk about mental and physical health and performance, skateboarding, music, culture, art and whatever else that we decide to talk about. Enjoy. Hey, I can hear you now.
Oh, sick.
Hey.
I can hear you too.
Oh my God. How are you doing?
Can we see? Can you see me?
I can see you. I can see you perfectly.
Sick. It's a go. It's a go. It's a go.
Well, can I first say it is a genuine pleasure to talk to you. Been a long time follower since the early days, the H Street days. And everything in between. And recently, since I started following you on Instagram, I'm absolutely blown away by what you're still doing, by the stuff that you're still doing on a board. I'm gonna share the screen at some point to show, because I'm recording this, to show the slam that you took on that kink rail. Is that a couple of weeks back?
That's like now it's been a couple months. You know.
Oh, how did you survive that? It looked horrendous.
I'm still mad. I still want to go back. I still have to go back. I still got to go back.
But the first slam, because there's two clips of it, isn't it? The first one where you go.
There's a couple weird slams on that one. Like it's just I'm actually, like I said, I'm still mad about that. I still want to go back and go land it.
I can't believe how well you came out, because that's something I want to come to later on. But first of all, do you want to just do a quick breakdown of the history of Ron Allen very quickly, of who you are?
Break it down. Break down. Shoot, man. I mean, let's see. I mean, turned pro 87. That's a long time ago. Mm-hmm. It's like kind of like I was just, I'm writing this book. So we're kind of going over timelines and doing documentaries. So we're doing a lot of timeline stuff. So it's crazy to kind of have to, think about where you're at in time. It's crazy.
Yeah, totally. Because I first found out about you through Shackle Me Not, I think, H Street videos. And I want to get on to A Soldier Story, the life video, and how pivotal, we found that in this country where I'm from. Because I think, if I remember rightly, I think you might have visited Swansea in the past as well.
Yeah.
I think, you came here with Skin. Skin brought you, Matt Hensley, Tony Mag, Ryan Monahan.
Is that the red ramp?
That's the one.
Yep,
that's the one. Ramp. Because I was there. I was there on the day when you guys turned up and jumped over the fence to come and skate. And me and my group were just like, where did they come from? Like what the night before we're watching you guys on a video getting hyped to skate, and then the next day you guys are just turning up in Swansea, jumping over the fence and skating.
Yeah, because that was when like Tony Mag and Ryan were both kind of like Tony Mag came to see how Ryan was skating, and Ryan was killing it.
Yeah. I think he spent a bit of time in Swansea, because that ramp back then was kind of world renowned, wasn't it? Everyone. Yeah. The Powell team came over, the Bones Brigade came over, Chris Miller. I've lost count of the amount of pros that I saw skate that ramp, and like you said, killing it on that ramp because it was so big. It was
supposedly perfect. Everyone had I remember T-Mag saying how perfect it was.
Yeah, that's what we heard. But me being my group of friends being the little kids back then, the ramp was just too big for us. It was so scary. I mean, I dropped in on it and I could do like a rock and roll, and that was about it. But it was so big, it scared the hell out of me every time I saw someone skate it. My mind was just blown completely. And I think at one point Sean Sheffy was there, because there was a street comp, and I remember he was sitting behind us, and he's such a powerhouse of a guy that we were just like in awe of him, going, because he just skated around, and we were just like, how can someone have so much energy? And because I found out on the live video, the amount of energy that came through that video that kind of helped sculpt how I approach skateboarding, because I wasn't a particularly technical skateboarder. It was just stairs and rails, and think, right, if I throw myself down these stairs enough times, I'm probably going to make it at some point. I might injure myself doing it, but that's kind of how I looked at it. I was never a technical skater like a few of my friends were. And that's what I got through, particularly through A Soldier Story, was just energy and charging everything and speed and just pushing. And and that's what blows me away now, is watching you still skate now through your Instagram. I'm like, you've never lost that. It's that energy is still there. And that's why I reached out to you, because I was like, seeing someone who, because what are you're 60 now, aren't you?
Yeah, 50. Well, we just did this article on Thrasher. I'm technically 59 and a half.
59 and a half.
59 and a half. Okay, you gotta make sure. You know what I mean? Like 59 and a half, and not 60 yet. It's because I'm born at the end of the year. So like every time I try to say 60, someone always hits me on 59 and a half. So
well, I mean, because I wanted to start off with basically your history of how you got into skateboarding and what it was that attracted you, and how you've managed to keep doing it for so long. Because I believe, from what I've read, was it 78 when you first found the board? Because I watched that documentary last night, The Blackboard. I think that was linked, because I never knew that was around. So I watched that last night, and that was really cool. That was a really cool documentary with Carl Watson and yourself and all the other guys in it. It was really, and I'd never thought about skateboarding, because where I'm from in Swansea, UK, it's a very sheltered place, compared to California, New York, like a lot of places in America. So, it's a lot different now, but it's predominantly white, like by far. So I think when we saw you guys on, because you were the first black professional street skater, if I'm right.
Yeah. How crazy is that?
Yeah, but
that's so funny.
But that's the funny. I was talking to my friend earlier that when we first saw you in the H Street video, you were just another skateboarder. We weren't like, oh my God, there's a black professional skateboarder. It didn't even enter our heads. It was just another skater.
Nor did H Street either. H Street sort of didn't really see it that way either. H Street was sort of looking at it kind of like right on, wrong. And it never made it like, tried to Jackie Robinson it, like in the baseball thing, try to do something with it. They just kind of said, right on, go, do your thing.
Yeah. Do you think that, I mean, it must have in some way opened the doors for other people, because a few of the guys on the Blackboard mentioned that, saying that they saw skateboarding as a very white surfer culture type thing that they weren't attracted to.
Yeah, it was pretty surf cultured out at that point. And I remember, being black, just kind of, I liked skateboarding, didn't really care about what others felt about, what I was doing, which is sort of like the punk part came in too. So you're looking at like, you're listening to punk music, you're kind of being solo, you're skating, you're doing your thing. And in the end, you're not really caring what like society is sort of caring about where you're at. So then years later, you find out you're like this professional skateboarder who's like the first African-American to turn that. And you kind of go, wow, that's a trip. I didn't know that. I didn't start skating because I wanted that. Mm-hmm. And in the end, to become that is more, it's sort of like, wow, what a trip. Like almost kind of attributed to like the being punk enough to go for it back then and take the ridicule and the, the BS that people like, because it wasn't like, I tend to make things easy because I'm not going to sit around and waddle in a bunch of mire of it. I'm not going to be bummed about it. But, when you get a chance to sit and look back, there were some times that weren't that easy. Being black and representing something that they viewed as black culture viewed as white was kind of like you caught some heat. But you just had to like believe in yourself, and you had to not really care where people came from. You know what I mean? Like, and that's like kind of like, but it was rooted in like, listening to punk music, skating, like hip hop came around, just all that sort of like anti-establishment. Like used to make me mad when my friends would get married. I was like, you're supposed to be punk rock, man. Like I thought you was like anti the system. You got married? Like what? But I mean, that's just me being, too punk rock in a sense. But it's like that hip hop same way. You have this dedication to it, 5 elements. Or I say 5 because skateboarding being an element of hip hop. But like, there was graffiti writers that were like, gotta stay true to the elements. There was breakdancers, gotta stay true to the elements. DJs, stay true to the elements. MCs, vocalists, gotta stay true to the elements. So you have all these different things making you have to stay true. So if you came up in the 90s, man, there's mad rules. You know, a lot of rules.
Yeah. Do you think that's why? Because I think in the 90s, like you said, that's when skateboarding and hip hop started to kind of meet each other. And do you think the energy of skateboarding, the energy of hip hop, and those 5 elements, like you talked about, the graffiti, MC, and DJ, and etc., it all just made sense because it was the same. It's the same thing.
You probably remember Lester Kasai breakdancing and leaving the video like he was breakdancing, and they said, "Come on, Lester," and then he left his like pad and went skating. So I remember being like, "Okay, there's one of the earliest references to breakdancing / skateboarding, Lester Kasai." And I think it was in a Vision video or maybe a Sims video, whoever he wrote for at the time. And so I remember going, whoa, what a trip, you know? And so really, when you think about it, a lot of those guys, breakdancers, DJs, they all have a skateboard somewhere in their garage, in their, you know what I mean? You can go to where they're DJ right now and there's a skateboard somewhere. So, because that's part of their history too, part of their background.
But I think it's the creativity involved, because when you watch certain people skate, someone like Gons, for example, and I was watching Kien Lu. I was watching Kien Lu because after watching the Life video again last night, I went onto the Maple video, and there's a section of Kien Lu just basically bombing through San Diego, and just literally like he's making everything up as he's going along. And I think maybe the difference back then is everything was new. Tricks were being invented daily. Like every day there was a new trick, or you do a trick by accident and it would become a new trick.
Yeah.
You know, and the difference now is, not saying that every trick that's ever been invented has been invented, but I think it's a lot more structured now. People think of their tricks before doing it. There's not everyone. There's still a lot of creative skaters out there.
Well, have you ever thought about the 90s did this to us as skaters? Because we were born to the VX. So in a sense, we had to go get your trick, then get the filmer, get your tape, go to the spot, go redo the trick with it being filmed. And like in the 90s, that made us very critical, because we were like, okay, what did you Smith grind that rail? Yeah. Okay, now I need you to come back and film it. So now the pressure's on you now, because now here's a filmer. You got a 30-minute cassette or whatever tape in there, maybe 60. You don't got that much time. Don't want to kill up all the footage for the day on just one trick. There's no way you're learning a trick on a VX, because that's wasting time. So in the end of the day, it's like, oh my God, like 90 skaters were on the clock. Like almost like you better get it and then move on to the next, you know what I mean? And then that, because you couldn't really record over tapes, because then that would add glitches to the tape. So you were sort of, in the 90s, sort of held to, like, you were constantly in evaluation mode, like a test, like in school. Like, guess what? Yeah, you got a test. Here comes the filmer. You told him you made this trick. He wants you probably to get it in within about 5 to 10 tries. He doesn't have an hour here, and nor does he have time on the tapes. So that kind of changed. Now you could set your phone down till the battery runs dead, and you run out of like space. You can film something for a long time now. And so you can also see how people do learn tricks too. They learn stuff via, because once you get it via footage, you're done. You're stoked. But at the end of the day, sometimes you when you have it really good is when you can add the style and make it all dope. And so I think sometimes people forget that. Like, I was just watching in the World Championships, that man, Aurelien Girard, hard flip, late flip over the hubba. And I was so stoked, because like, I think sometimes tricks like that are misunderstood on how hard they are. And I mean, I think the judges gave him a decent score, but I think if they understood how hard that trick was, and for him to make it as clean as he did, I think it could have been one of them, I beat Nija tricks. Hate to say it that way, not to disrespect Nija in any way. I love the guy skating, but when it comes right down to it, they both did such rad tricks, and give them both respect for what they did. But I just did a shove it late flip in Tampa and got loved by Tony Hawk. And so I'm on this late flip thing, but then I go, if you turn on the internet now, if you turn on Instagram, there's full of late flip. It's kind of like the future of skateboarding is done in a late flip kind of thing. So it's like, I felt like he did like a futuristic trick and what's going on now. And he didn't get that love. He got that like, yeah, whatever. And it's like, oh my God, that was, I don't know.
Yeah. In a year's time, people might look back at that trick and go, holy, how did he do that? You know, so clean and so smooth.
Exactly. Like you're almost the cleaner you make it, almost works to your detriment as opposed to if you made it all sketchy and whoa, you know, like he made it so clean. Enough respect to that man. That man also did late flip to like lip slide or front board.
I think I saw some of that footage, and I had to rewind it quite a few times to think, hang on, what just happened then? What did he just do then? Rewind.
Americans are having an identity crisis right now. You have to understand. We'll get over it. We always thought we started it. We always thought that we would be the biggest in it, and now we're watching everybody. Everybody's coming. You know, you got Jen Wu, you got everybody. I mean, it's just amazing to me how that is. But I'm sorry, I'm getting off the top.
Oh no, I mean, I don't want this to be particularly strict, but yeah. So is it Visalia where you grew up?
Yeah.
Where you were skating?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So have a hella pros.
How was that going? Like, how did you first get your first? What drew you to get your first skateboard, and then what kept you in it? What kept you doing it?
We were kids. We sort of shared one. That was kind of funny. Like we had four of us had one board, and we all kind of went around and we put this piece of wood on a fence, and we would go up and do kick turns and come back down. And then it's going to stand there, and the next person would go, and the next person would go. And then on the weekends, Rochambeau would see if we get the board. And so I kind of didn't get the board, so I kind of wanted one. So around 11, I think 11 or 12, my parents put one under the Christmas tree. My mom made a joke like, that's the last time I saw you. Like you got your skateboard on, you were 11 for Christmas, and you're out the door. And it's just like, whoa, bro. Like, yeah, that's like. And then we made a quarter pipe and we were skating it. And my friend at the time, this guy, Scott Obradovich, he came down to skate the quarter pipe, which we at that time had nobody that skated with us. And so when this dude rolled up, we were like, who are you? And he's like, oh man, my name's Scott. I got drinks at the house and my sister's cute. And we were like, oh, let's go. And so from that point, I remember he was like part of our little group of kids that skateboarded. And then he would come visit his mom because his dad lived in Fresno, and he would visit his mom. But his mom would like give him the keys to this little Datsun B210 station wagon, which then became our kind of like road trip in the area car. We never went at that point. We were like all of about 14, 15, 16. So she let us drive to the places to skate or whatever like that. But as we got older, that car became kind of like the road trip car, took us to Big O and all the LA parks and stuff. And it was dope because we like it. That's kind of like skate mom, like she really knew that that's what we wanted to do. So she allowed us to have that Datsun B210. It came in handy, driving back and forth between LA and Visalia,
I think having parents who are supportive and of whatever you're doing is hugely beneficial in situations like that. Hugely beneficial.
Well, it's crazy too, because you don't realize, I never realized how much my parents even wanted to have anything to do with what I'm doing until I thought they thought I was cool. But then in the end, it was like sort of like my dad used to sneak me to the park. He'd go to the Angels game. He'd go put me to the park. You go skate the park. When the lights turned off at the Angels game, I knew I kind of had to go. The park would close around midnight. I'd, be there. Dad would roll up. Boom, we drive back to Visalia. And don't tell your mom, styly. And then years later, like he was giving money to some dude, keep an eye on a little black guy. And then that dude was Stacy Peralta, which was just crazy. No. Like, oh my God, like he was babysitter. It was just like he sat there in the lawn chair and just read a magazine. He never really looked at, did anything. But it was like, I guess my dad was like, that was his way of making sure I was good. So in the end, I was just like, right on, man. Like, I just like skating. And in the end, it's like, I like skating. So like, if my dad was able to let me do it, I'm doing it, But then, and that's like, hate to say it this way, but I mean, man, I think that's kind of one of the things about being someone who does stuff first. Sometimes you gotta kind of deal with, I've dealt with a lot of reverse racism. Like I obviously, whatever people felt, whatever. But part of my college days, I went to EOP program as a freshman to go to school early, see what it's like, check it out and stuff. And the people there were, Blacks and Latinos and Asian people. And there were some really cool people, but there were some people that, especially my own Black brethren, they were not feeling it to skateboard. calling it surf talk, try to make me feel like there's something wrong with me. And I just, man, I remember that was like I graduated from high school early, like 16. So man, like when I was kind of strong in conviction, I learned that from that. Like, if you really want, I always make this joke, if you want somebody to quit something, do not make fun of them. That's not the way to get them to quit. You want somebody to quit with them, join them, put your hand on their back, man, way to go. Do your thing, man, that's tight. Because once you get conviction, there ain't no way you stop it. And like, that's kind of leads to why I skate the way I do now. It's just like, I'm kind of just want to still progress, like, it's kind of like you get stuff from sponsors, they give you stuff, and that they're not expecting you to, like, I'm 60, but they're not expecting me to sit on my ass, go promote, go skate. That's what you do, I mean, I know it's no pressure. It's like sometimes like the railing, that was me kind of making myself get like, yeah, you're getting old, but like I always call it I call it the grilled chocolate experience. That was my grilled chocolate when Eric Costin and Mike Carroll were all old and they're in the old folks home. And I think it was Costin's character went to the stairs and jumped them in the wheelchair. And it was sort of at that age, it was like I was kind of around a lot of older guys and they were all like talking, telling kids what they should be doing and stuff. And I was just like, man, like, we should shut up, man. Like, honestly, like, not to be mean or nothing, but kids learn how they learn, and how a kid learns maybe is different than how we learn, because we sort of had a different way of learning things, back then, and we even used terms that were gnarly and stupid and stuff like that. And we've learned since then, those terms are not too good and stuff. But in the end, it's like, kind of like, it made me go, yeah, if you really want people like the kids to listen to you, or you want the kids to respect you, you have to go for it. And then in the end, it's like, even if they don't respect them, you respect yourself, because you'll know that, like, it's just like, I still got it in me. I think people over 50 sometimes still got it in them, but they're just afraid of getting hurt. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And then, like, because they forgot that, like, doing this is getting hurt. But things happen, like, if you love it, you get hurt, you get up, you let it get, you go through the rigmarole of getting hurt, and then it goes away, and then you go again, like, I mean, it's like, I don't know any other way to say it other than that. I've taken a lot of spills, and it's crazy, because, like, my face is, I was looking at the thing, and my face is swollen, working on some dental stuff right now. And they're like, the dentist is like, man, you have such a high pain threshold. And you're like, blood, this is nothing. Like, come on, dude. You got to put a hurting on me for me to, like, slow down. And it makes me laugh, because at my age, he goes, this is what we give our standard 60-year-old. And it's like, hey, blood, first of all, this ain't no standard 60-year-old type shit right here. Like, I could go out in the parking lot and jump your little car. If we had a little race, I'd probably run faster than you. So, like, let's recognize that, like, at this level, there's like people that are like, it's like kind of like put you in categories and saying, well, this is how this person is. And you're like, well, bruh, that's not always the case. I fall down and get back up, but I love sometimes to fall down, because I know I'm really trying. And that's like in the rail thing. A lot of people do not realize skateboarding is this way, that when you fall and you commit and you fall like that and you get up, you're actually, as much as you're like, it looks gnarly, you're like, I got it.
I know. Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that was me going, I got it. But unfortunately, I kind of ripped a muscle off the back part of my leg. So I had to kind of let that heal. But to be honest, I was like, oh, first thing I was like, should have waxed the whole rail. Like, got through a bar wax, just waxed everything. And then second, you got to lighten for that stuff. You can't land hard. And I landed hella hard, kind of almost, because, well, I was scared. So I landed hard. If I would have landed light and would have, like, glided through it and maybe even gone a little faster, I'd have been fine. So it's like, people are like, I kept, some people even wrote me on Instagram and were like, you're my favorite, you're my favorite skater, and it makes me sad. I mean, makes me think you're crazy. You want to still do that. And I was like, but like, yeah, like, I mean, wouldn't you? Like, I mean, if it's like I've looked at that rail for probably 20 years, and I've always been, I'm gonna try it. When he says I'm gonna try it, somebody got when he says I'm gonna try it, and I did. And so, okay, yeah, I got kind of quote broke off. But then on the other side of it, there was this thing called the Ron Allen Gap, and I don't call it the Ron Allen Gap, I call it the Green Gap. But Tadashi was like, let's go there and get a trick. And then I did like a late shove it over for a creation ad like a couple years back. And it's like wow, as you get older, spots that you kind of remember, you can go back to, and you go, oh my God, this is kind of dope. I can do this now, like, and so I don't know. I think sometimes age has worked out really well for me. You know what I mean? As far as like go back to spots, like, and so funny, I'm looking at this crazy rail. It's in the Rose Garden of Oakland. And it's like, I had to get some rails because it's so far. I tried to do a board with it, and the board didn't make it. The board didn't make it. And so, yeah, like, it's crazy because I'm, I think it's 57 stairs or something like that. But it's just this long, in the middle of it, some tree fell on it. It has a little circle. And it's just like, that's going to be so fun. I don't look at it as like I'm trying to kill myself. I look at it as fun. And like, if it's killing myself is not in the picture, we ain't even like, I don't even think about that. Like, I skate enough to know that you got to catch yourself. I don't put myself in positions where it's crazy. And on top of that, like that, with like the Joe at Thrasher, I'm always like, let's get a cover. Let's get another cover. I want another cover. And he's like, you don't have to kill yourself to get a cover. I know. I can get an aesthetic shot, But I go, but if you knew you were getting it, there is sort of a part of you that just goes like, let's go. You know what I mean? Like, but I get it. I'm not trying to send it down something I've never done before. I think that's kind of crazy, But
do you think that because you've never really stopped, have you? You've never taken like time off. You've kept going and kept going and kept going. And do you think that because you've never stopped, because that's what I was going to ask you, how you managed? I mean, I'm just gonna, if you don't mind, I'm just going to share the screen so everyone can see the slam that you took on that rail, because it has to be seen to be believed.
But at my age, I'm like, I mean, golly, I'm going to sound so weird. It felt.
Here we go. So you go down, you just hit. Oy. And you just roll out of it, and I'm like, my God, there's 30-year-olds who wouldn't roll out of that. so how?
Well, that day we went with some kid, and we were like excited because we were for sure, like when we went, we thought for sure that the young one was going to jump down it too. We were just for sure. We were just like, oh my God. And I myself was like, this is going to be dope because like, this is going to like get me hyped to even just, get on it and try it, And when we got there, the kid, like, he didn't even try it. And he's like, I ain't trying it. And I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, so that was funny to me. That made me laugh because it was just like, we thought the young kid would fire me up. Like, he's going to fire you up. And it's like, no, he's not even trying it. I was like, you're not going to try it? He goes, that's just $2. I was like, okay, then I guess it's on me. Let's go. I mean, I just think sometimes, though, it's like, you got age. You know what to do. It's a 50-50. It isn't kick flipping in it. It isn't, you know what I mean? I'm not even 5-0 in it, nose grinding it. How many 50-50 grinds have you done? You know what I mean? If you look at it like that, it just, you fall in part of it, but you kind of knew that if you did it right, you could make it.
Well, I think so much of that, I was talking to a friend of mine about, anybody who's done skateboarding for any length of time, even me, not necessarily for length of time, is going to get injured at some point. Some people are really lucky. Other people, a lot of my friends had what you consider career-ending injuries. But like the way you approach, like I've always said, fear is the worst thing. If you're going up to a trick, whether that be a set of stairs, whether it be a gap, whether it be a rail, and you second guess it, the second before you ollie or the second before you go off it, that's when the problem happens. You've got to go in and go full send.
Yeah.
In order to get,
almost like commit, and totally. Don't worry. Yeah, and commit. If you go fast enough and things go wrong, you'll be all right. You know what I mean? Like, I was taken out. I had pulled a muscle from my left leg, which I had to watch the footage to see why was that this way, and why did I have this big knot on my knee? But later I went, oh, okay, so my knee kept me from saving the families. And then somewhere over on the left side, my left leg did some sort of whip, and that tore the muscle. So then for a good, like, couple of weeks, I was like, my left leg hurt with a little bit of the muscle tear, get the old hemp rub out and, rub on it and be good to go. I was still kind of skating, but not hard. But then later I realized that, like, yeah, I really did like injure that muscle. And, but once again, it's like, I realized I had injured it because I was better, not because I had injured it. And I went, whoa, and I took the time off. But then when I got back to skating, I went, oh, wow. So that's what that did. It's like, oh, but I've always been like about stretching and, and I did some yoga back in the day. I mean, I kind of still do stuff like that, and also like, and I think sometimes like I see it kind of a lot in the skate park stuff where a lot of people want to show that they can rip. And I think there are times when you have to do that. There's a great amount of like competitions, great time to show you rip. Demos, great time to show you rip. But when you're just at the park with your homies, and if you want to show you rip, sometimes that's not the time. It's like almost like the skate park becomes kind of like a dojo. You could just go there, and like if I know I'm going to go later in the streets to jump on something like a rail or something, I'm going to go to the park and practice what I'm going to do. And so the park becomes kind of like, okay, yeah, there's that perfect ledge that I know if I jump on every time. Okay, so when I get to the street and it's not perfect, well, at least I know that I'll have that repetition and regimentation of jumping on it about 30 or 40 times. So now on the street, when I get on it once, I'm like, whoa, I did that. I'm kind of stoked. I got on it. You know what I mean? There's a different reality that you have in the street than in the park. So you use the park as the dojo sort of thingy, and then you go into the street. Sometimes you find you're like, I'm not one of those girls that has one of those houses or warehouses. Nah, we out here in Oakland trying to make it work. You know what I mean? So it's like, to me personally, sometimes it's like the elements are there. You just have to take advantage of them.
Totally. So I wanted to get on to A Soldier Story, the DVD, the film when that came out, because that was was it a matter of like 3 years where you had Shackle Me Not, Hocus Pocus, and then A Soldier Story came out 91.
Yeah, I want to say, 91.
About 91. So between, I remember Public Domain, the Powell videos where you would argue street skating was kind of put out there to everybody. You had an artist with the Santa Cruz videos.
Yeah,
that was kind of almost that. Most of the skating videos back then were vert or park based. So then when Shackle Me Not came out, it kind of, I remember that when that came out, and just some of the parts you didn't know what to make of it. Your mind was so fried that you've never seen anything like this before. But it got you so pumped and so hyped just to go and try these things that you're seeing and try and work them out. But then when A Soldier Story came out, it almost took that to another level, because you had all the tricks that were in Shackle Me Not and Hocus Pocus. And then it was suddenly, let's take those tricks and let's make them faster, bigger, just pushing everything to the limit. I mean, Sheffy's part and your part with John Diago, and Sheffy's part and John Reeves' part as well, were just, you were watching it with your mouth open, just going, hang on, what just happened then? Rewind that. How fast are they going? Look how big that gap is. You were just like, you had nothing, you didn't expect to see it. And I think because when in the UK, when we got those videos, it was probably about a year since they'd actually been shot. So the stuff that we were watching was a year old. So then when we were seeing stuff in magazines, because we didn't have YouTube and all those things back there, you didn't, there was such a big gap between the US and the UK because we only saw anything a year later. We were just like playing catch up all the time, constantly. But that's what I loved. Absolutely loved like putting on A Soldier Story, and the music for The Soldier Story as well was one of those ones that just everything about it was just perfect. The music, the parts, because the music that you skate to in the start and the song at the start, was that your music?
Yeah.
Because that's still killer music. Like when I put it on last night on YouTube, I was like, oh man, because it was unlike other skate videos as well. It was, the music almost shouldn't have worked, but it did. It just worked perfectly. In Sheffy's part with the Ennio Morricone, just everything about it was unlike anything else we'd ever seen. So when you were making that, did you know you were making a video that was going to have such an impact then?
Well, and I personally own the company, but those videos, and I always have to always say this, the first two videos were Mike McIntyre. So he went on to do a bunch of different snowboard videos. And so his idea, along with Tony and Mike's together, made Hocus Pocus and made Shackle Me Not. So Mac Dog, who went on to make snowboard videos and blew up in a whole different world, was the kind of that reason why those videos looked the way they did. And then when we started doing the live video, Dan Stewart had, like, at that point, sort of, he had taken Hensley and put Hensley, you know, he'd done some stuff with Hensley, Jeremy Ray maybe, and like his mentality was sort of, the beginning of that video was Dan Stewart's mentality. Let's step it up a notch. Like, if you're not stepping it up, get the fuck out of here. And it was like, that's really how it felt. Like, it's like, in a way, it was like, his way of filming and his way of shooting things and his way of doing things was so like, let's get it, kind of like full send how we talk now. That it was sort of like the like, I was just sort of like, I called myself a figurehead. I call myself the Queen of England. Like, everyone would do everything and I would just sit there like, it's my company. But I didn't. Mike got together with Dan Stewart and they recognized Sheffy's power, and Sheffy and Stewart with Mike kind of visioned it to make this part for live video. And then we all, understanding what Chef was doing, started to realize that, like, damn, we better step up. Like, there's things where Chef ollies the street in UC Santa Barbara. Well, I went to UC Santa Barbara. I ollied that street. When I heard he ollied that street, I went, wow, I better go figure out some stuff. I better ollie. He's going to my old spots, killing my old spots. Like, that was one of the things that I was like, Sheffy had come to California to, like, kill spots and was killing spots. So it was like, you better find something new. And that was like, we found the garage gap that me and John were jumping over. And, you know, it made you sort of spot check and made you just really come out and find what you could find. Because at the end of the day, like, Sheffy sort of put it on fire. Like, we were in a hotel one time and Mike had a barrel in the middle of the parking lot, and Sheffy first ollied it, then he backside 180'd it. And I'll never forget, like, I was standing there with Hensley. Hensley's like, I don't do that. I'm like, yeah, do I, dude? And then he ollied it. I remember we both just walked back in the room, closed the door, like, our careers are straight numbered. You know what I mean? Like, that's it's over, dude. There's some, like, count the days, baby. Because, like, at that point, and it was an oil barrel. It was like a trash can, but it was 3 rings. And to see somebody with that much power and skate that fast, yeah, you know, you kind of were like, whoo, you know, you go, what am I doing here? You got him.
but it's like, in his part, I mean, there's several tricks and parts in that video that still today make me go, holy shit. Like, his back lip on the bench, his backside tail slide on the bench from the flat. There's that really tight bank that in your and John Diago section that's about 2 foot tall and just whips up like that, and there's a fence, and he does like a backside 360 ollie on that, lands on his nose and whips it round, and it's so tight. I'm like, that shit's hard. Like, that shit's hard, and this is 30 years ago. Like, and that's what I loved about that era was just the creativity, which it was exploding everywhere. Because you didn't have the connection that you have now. So people were just literally making up their own tricks in their own area. And then others were making up their own tricks in their own area. Yep. And then they'd get together at a comp and be like, holy shit, what'd you do then? And then they take it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It was just constant. Because I mean, over here, you know, UK, very small country, Wales, where I live, you've been here, it's very small. So we had little pockets of groups of skaters that were only a few miles from each other. And you didn't really connect. And then as you got a little bit older and you kind of grew out of this is my neighborhood, like, what the fuck are you doing here? You suddenly realize that the skating world is way bigger than your little town, your little village. You've got all of this other stuff that, you know, then you start, the first time I discovered there was a magazine about skateboarding, I was like, what do you mean? Other people do this? And then all of a sudden you're just like, oh, this is a thing. Like,
That's like, I love teaching skate camp for that reason, because on the Friday, the end of skate camp Friday, You let the kids out at noon, you give them a bag full of treats, and they all, they jump in their parents' cars, and maybe 5 or 6 of them go to the skate shop where they get their first mag. They get a chance to meet who's in the skate shop, and like if they come back the next week or you see them during the summer, most kids are like, dude, I didn't know.
You just see them, you just see them, their brains almost imploding.
Like, know why? Like, and they're like, there's just this, you were just with us, just this teaching at the park, but there's this whole, like one kid said, you guys need to make a vocabulary book about what's said in skateboarding, because we have no clue of what does radical mean, And I'm like, it's never said fully radical. It's like, that was rad, and they're like, yeah, what's the difference, and like, I remember going, wow, I never thought about that, like a glossary of terms, like, and that makes you laugh, but it made me like the kid, when I was teaching camp, I learned so much about how kids look at skateboarding when they're unbranded. So when they don't know that there are brands, and they don't know that, like, they don't know a wheel from a board, like, or a truck from, they don't know. It's so wonderful because there's like no competition of what is good or what is bad. It's just all cool. And then if you see them as they get more branded, that gets them more convicted to their brand, because they didn't know anything about it and now they do. So that to me was the cool. I think skateboard marketing sometimes is a lot more subtle, and the kids, that when they get it, they get stoked because they're like, wow, there's this shop I can go to. I belong to something. It's kind of dope. You know what I mean? In the end, like, it's like, wow, I'm a skater. And it's like almost like a fashion piece, but you actually use, as opposed to like it being like, I wear the same jacket as everybody else. I have my own board that gives me this whole independence. But yet when I get with my homies, there's this whole weird independence that we have. And I think that's part of why I taught, is like, I wanted to get kids to that. Like, think for yourself, think for yourself, think for yourself. Like, there's stuff coming that's going to make it hard for you to think for yourself. So think for yourself.
And I think you also want them to have a piece of what you've found and you've had. It's like, you don't want to keep it to yourself. You want to think, if this thing that's so simple makes me feel so good and so positive, why would I not want to share that with other people? Why would I want to keep that to myself? Because I think in the mid-90s, when skateboarding, when Rocco and World Industries and all those companies started taking over, you had all these little companies popping up, and the bigger companies started to struggle. Then skateboarding started to get cool, for want of a better word. So you had those kids who knew it was cool and used it to their advantage. And you had the others who were like, well, I don't care whether it's cool or not, because I'm doing it anyway. Even if it's whack, I'm doing it. Yeah. So there was that shift. And I noticed when I used to go to skate in London, there was a hugely different atmosphere in a big city with skateboarding than there was in a small town with skateboarding.
Yeah,
because the guys don't know who you are. They're like, oh, who are these guys? And they just eyeball you, from the other side of the spot. Like, who are these guys? They're not from around here, sort of thing. And it was all probably made up in our heads. There was that nervousness. If we just went over and talked to them, they probably would have been cool. Skaters meeting skaters.
I think they call that blatant localism.
Yeah. And it was noticeable in some places, but then not so much in others, and that's down to each town, village, it's like a big fish in a small pond. You feel like it's your environment. This is our environment. We skate here, and you hear the stories of EMB, of Embarcadero, that the stories I've heard about that is like, why would you want to go and skate there? It sounded terrifying. It sounded like you literally get beaten up for turning up if you weren't a local.
Well, but there was certain, I was not a local. I definitely had to, I rolled through that area a lot, on my way to hooking up with like Jim and Tommy, and EMB definitely had its, like, I don't know what you'd call it, like, but in the same way, it was sort of like nowadays, that type of reality they call toxic male mentality or something crazy. Yeah. But it was sort of hierarchical. It was like people did get beat up if they tried to go and act like they were gonna do Henry's tricks or Mike's tricks and try to kind of front. And there was kind of some weird, like, I want to say mores, or like like unwritten rules.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's like no disrespect to skating, but back then there was unwritten rules, and those rules were you don't go one up one of the kids there that's skating there. And it just got to the point where people were like, and you see it happen everywhere. It's like they want to show how good they are, and then here's the best dude. So they think if I do the best dude's tricks, then it's like no, that will get you beat up. Like, so don't just go be like what they were saying was go do your tricks, be yourself. You don't have to one up everybody. Just come here and have fun and skate with us, as opposed to, well, who's doing what they're doing? I gotta bust it. And it's like, oh God, because how many those guys sitting on those benches, how many times have they seen the young dude coming from somewhere, whether it be Seattle, Portland, wherever, East Coast, West Coast, come to EMB to show what he got. But in the end, it's like, just be cool. Because the guys that came in are cool. They stayed friends and were cool with each other for years afterwards. You can tell that with spots. Like, just be cool. Like, don't try to go there and like, I'm going to rip everybody. Because that, good luck.
I think it's very similar to the Dogtown surfing mentality.
Totally.
It's the same. It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
It's just a different environment that you can't, if you don't walk in and understand where you're at, you can be in the wrong place.
Yeah. Well, it's a certain amount of, if you turn up. Because I listened to a couple of one of the 9 Club interviews, and I think they were talking to Jason Lee, and he was talking about when he first went there and how James Kelch was kind of the enforcer, one of the enforcers of the areas, and he said, if he's cool, he's cool. But if you go, like you said, if you show up to show off, to kind of show everybody what you can do, then they will respond negatively. Because they're like, hang on a minute, this is our place. You're welcome here, but you don't come here to throw down and show everybody that you're better than them. That's not what it's about, And that's
so when I met Kelch said, "Yo, can you ollie up the stage?" And I was like, "Are you?" And I said, "Manual or nose manual?" And he said, "What?" And I went, I just ollie manual the stage, and he was like, damn. And I was like, what? And he was like, get ollie hella high. And I was like, and then he snapped up on there, and I was like, damn, blood, so can you. And he's like, yeah, I can't manual. I'm all shit. Within about 2 or 3 tries I had him trying it, you know what I mean? Like, so I kind of learned that, like, your ability shows, but don't go showing off your ability. Just go and skate. And then like with that, where I wound up helping him ollie the manual on it, and then next thing I knew, he was like the man over there doing some other crazy stuff, like 180 in or something. But the idea is that you don't go there like, okay, so we did this trick here, all right, I'm gonna do that here, and you're like, no, don't do that, like, don't do it, no. And that was before ABD was even talked about. They just enforced ABD.
I mean, how many people turned up to EMB just to do the 7 or just to do the Gons Gap to show they could?
Right. Well, it's like that. But then Gino wanted to do G backside flips it. And then it's like when somebody went buck like that, it just changed. Everyone went, oh, like I was at home and heard the story. Like I was at home working company stuff, and they were out and then came back in, and that day Gino had backside flipped the stairs, and they were pretty backside flipped the Gons Gap, and they were pretty hyped about it. And I remember being like, damn. And then I always said, what do you do on the 3 block switch 180? And they're like, damn, that was even more gnarlier. Like, so it's like, to me, like Gino, like back then, those guys were rad. But then, it's kind of funny when my companies went south, sometimes I gotta be honest, I was really glad. Because it was like, I kind of got sick of that. I got sick of like, we got to have the hottest dude and we got to be with the dopest people. You know what I mean? Like, got kind of sick of that. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, I kind of wanted to just have guys that like skateboarding, and that we can, I just got tired of trying to make dudes happy that weren't happy. You know what I mean? And like, that's some hard stuff. Like, you'd be like trying to like, dudes, I'm doing all this for this company, we're trying to make it. And they're just like, we hate it. And you're like, what? And they're like, yeah, we hate it. And you're like, God, I'm sorry that you hate it, but I still got to make it work every day. You know what I mean? So I remember that was kind of eye-opening. That was, you can do all that you want for people, but they still aren't going to like it.
But I think of that as when you've got a company like that, you're dealing with high energy, for most of the part, teenage kids who are just hyped all the time. And
right.
You look at all those little companies that hopped around in the 90s, and people were just going from company to company, leaving that company to go company, leaving that company to go to that company, so it must have been really difficult to hold down a company and hold a team down.
They used to make it fun. They used to make fun of me for that, because they were like, "Ron, that's how Ron holds his team down. They all stay at his house." So it's like, so you quit the company? Yeah. So you quit the house too? Like, found another place to live, right? You know what I mean? And like, no way. It was like, I kind of felt almost like I'm not the prisoner here. No one's a prisoner here. I'm like, you stay at the house, you sleep on the floor, you skate with us. That's cool. But like sometimes, man, people, it was like, whoa, like just the reality of it. It's like, when people quit, they just quit. A couple riders quit on tour and thought that I was going to like pay them out and send them on their merry way. And it was like, I'm on the middle of the tour, dude. You guys, I'm going to teach y'all a lesson. Oh, you can't teach us nothing. I said, oh yeah, I can. I said, what you going to teach us? I'm like, before you quit, ask for your money. So ask for your money. All right, I got paid. Okay, yeah, now I quit. And they're like, what do you mean? I go, because if you quit before your money, you ain't getting it. And they're like, what? I'm like, sorry, bro. Like, and that was the one. And then like another lesson, have a plan. Understand that you're quitting this company. What are you going to do afterwards? And so they looked at me like, and they were mad. They were mad at me. They were like, yeah, I'm sure there's a couple of harsh words, and went home and talked a lot of shit. But in the end, it's like, man, I was out in the middle of the tour. I kind of had to make do, you know what I mean? And so when dudes got emotional like that, or forgot that it was business, not personal, sometimes you had to kind of lay the line down. It sucked, but like in the same token, it's like, what are you going to do? Like you're like, yo, bro, I got 4 more demos or 5 more demos with your name. I got to explain to the shop owner, you ain't coming. I had to take the short on that. And they might not be happy. They may just go, we want to cancel it because your name is pretty big right at that point and you're leaving the tour. So yeah, it was like, that was some really eye-opening experiences where you're just like, whoa,
It's a lot to deal with, dealing with the organization of the team, dealing with the tours, dealing with the demos, dealing with the energy of the kids. They're probably going to be out partying, and I remember when the Plan B team came over to Swansea, and it was Danny Way, Tony Ferguson, Mike, Rick. They came to Swansea, and the weather was atrocious, so they couldn't skate. So we took them to an indoor car park that is not the greatest place to, a world-class team, and you're taking them to a soaking wet car park. But they skated, and then we sort of took them out afterwards, took them drinking, thinking, hey, yeah, we're going to hang out with the Plan B team. Nah, they just got hammered and just did their own thing, And looking back at it, why would they come and hang out with a bunch of people that they've never met before? They're in a country, they're excited, they're going to do what they want to do, and we were kind of like, fuck those guys. Why don't they come and hang around with us? It's like, well, they don't have to.
No, but that's the thing. It's like I look back at a lot of things and go, wow, we were really insecure. Like we were really, as human beings, we were super insecure about like, here we are, Americans in Europe. You know what I mean? And like, it's like we watch ourselves just conglomerate together and looking out like, oh my God. And like, everyone's like, yo, we're so glad you guys are here. And I think that like, I've even had to like lose some of that as I've gotten older, that like, like back then there was a sort of weird thing. Now it's like, no, it's not that way. You know what I mean? Like, but back then, I think there was a lot of insecurity being a professional skateboarder in America. You know what I mean? Like, because it's like, were you good enough to? There were people that were better than you. It was obvious. And so what was your claim to fame? What were you doing that made you so different? I was lucky. I kind of realized, man, I better be good with kids, teaching lessons and doing like that stuff helped a lot. But you could see like the pressure gets put on these guys. Like, what do you got? If you don't turn, like I was lucky enough to have I was older. So I already had kind of a mind in me. But you're 17, 18 years old, and it's like you're kind of sitting there going, wow, this is amazing. I'm here, you know. And then once that glow goes away, then there's an expectation of, hey, how are you going to skate? What are you going to do? What's going to go down? You know what I mean? And so like, there's a lot of pressure, but you don't realize it. So it makes you kind of insecure, basically.
Do you think that we're talking about pressure and like with kids skating now, because you've got the Olympics and you've almost got those, you had the X Games going for a while. So that kind of created that type of skating, that competitive, you know, you want to be the best, you go for the X Games and Street League. And you got those, what you consider hardcore skaters who would look down on that. That's just like circus tricks and things like that. But I mean, they're still ripping. They're still, and the argument being is putting skateboarding in the public eye, which means more skate parks are being built, which means more money is getting into the business. And all right, there's big companies who might come and throw their weight around a little bit. But when it comes down to it, if more skate parks are being built around the planet, around the whole world, that's got to be a good thing. You know, whether you agree how it's happened and whether you think there's too much money in skateboarding and it creates a kind of funny, at the core of it, skateboarding is skateboarding. This
skateboarding, you could like that's so funny you say that, because I was literally like, I was making a joke the other day, but I was kind of half joking and half true. I said, man, you know, if you know, life gets tough and I need to make extra money, I'll just buy a van and create the Ron Allen Fantasy Tour experience, where I get the old guys to jump in the van and we go someplace, and you go to a place, but they know you're coming, and then and like people there are paid to like act like fans, and so like you take people on the experience of jumping in a van and with your skateboards and driving to a demo and getting out the van and having people sign, you know, just like do the whole fantasy thing, man. And it would just, to me, it would be so hilarious, because that there's nothing in sport and anything like lifestyle, anything that is like that. The van pulling up to the skateboard demo. And when you get out, and how you're like mobbed by people who want autographs and stuff, but then you do that as a sort of a fantasy camp experience for people. Oh my God, that would just be like, because okay, half of us that skateboarded did it. Like, I never thought I could even be a pro. Like, I didn't know what pro was. So when they kind of started explaining it and seeing how it was going, I was like, oh, this is sick, you know? So there's part of me that like still hangs on to a little bit of that, you know, like I'm going to Tampa Pro and I'm 59 and going to Tampa Pro. But then there's part of me that goes, okay, yeah, realizations here. Yeah, you don't really kickflip in. You can kickflip out, but you don't really kickflip in. Or there's things that you can do, but at this point in your career, what's more important? And I think longevity is a good thing. But sometimes you can literally see yourself, like I see myself sometimes at Tampa going, let me not get in y'all's way. And I appreciate y'all giving me the time to do my thing out here. But really, as I'm getting, 59, 60, I'm not trying to be out here at 65 getting in y'all's way. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm not viably skating at that point, I'm out. There's something about a pro contest. It's like playing in a busy street, and there's everything happening around you. And if you're at 60 years of age or 59 years of age, my wits are still strong enough to not get in people's way. But I can understand that there's a certain point where you're like, yeah, about 63, 62, you're gonna be like, unless you're in 100% shape. And then you don't want to be the dude that, because you weren't on point, you ran into somebody who took them out and then they didn't get to skate. You would feel, oh my God, so horrible. So there is a sort of I appreciate them letting me skate, because there is a part of it that is, this is their livelihood at this point. And for me, I mean, that's kind of what we're tripping on, is like after the Tony Hawk thing and skate park in Tampa, the trick and stuff, they recognize there's this recognition that I have a fan base, which is kind of large, which I was kind of stoked on, like, whoa. And so they a lot of my sponsors even are like, wow, what a trip. It's like I'm showing that at this age, there's people that would support what you do. And I think some people are like, once you're past whatever, you lose all that. And I'm like, oh, no, you don't. Like, no, you don't. Like, I'm kind of like witnessing it as we speak. literally, you know what I mean? And so that to me, it makes me stoked because it really does. There's a viability to be in skateboarding from the ages of 19. And if you love it, all the way to shoot 60, 65. And if you're physically okay, you'll be able to do it. And you look at some of the guys now, the way their ability is and how they can sort of like, they know when that time is and they're not out there killing themselves. They will be skating in their 50s easy. And yeah, about I think 60, you know, that retirement age of 65 makes sense to me now. I'm like, yeah, I'll get the mini ramp in the backyard, get the pump track, get a pool, barbecue. I'm still skating, but I'm not, you don't see me anymore. I'm ghost in the machine. You know what I mean? But that to me, after being involved in it since you're 25 years old and to be able to go 25 years and then boom, another 10 years to that. Oh my God, come on. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just joyous. And that's the best part of skating is this is what people do not realize. As there is actually some pretty nice people. Like everyone thinks we're like harsh and ill towards each other and stuff. But I've seen I've had pros come and sit down next to me and be like, you know, and I'm looking at them like, this dude is going to talk to me? Like, holy crap. I know who this dude is. You know what I mean? Like, I know who you are, you know, and they go, dude, you know, I hope I can be going as long as you. And you're just like, are you joking? Are you serious? And they're like, no, I'm like totally serious. And you're like, wow, dude, thanks. Never even A, thought you recognized. B, wow, what an amazing question. And damn, dude, like we homies. Like, that's so dope. Like, that just happened to me with Pedro Barros. I did not have, Pedro came and skated in Oakland for the Lower Bobs contest. And after the contest, he had a bunch of friends here and they were all kicking it. And they were having like their Ginger and Jameson. And I was like, Ginger and Jameson, what? I didn't hurt. That sounds so good. Hey, let me get a shot, blah, blah, blah. You know, and then homie says, hey, he'd like to shoot a selfie with you. And I turned and I was like, Pedro, what? He goes, dude, one of my favorite skaters. My knees buckled like, damn, blood. Like, what? Like, what? Are you serious? Like, holy shit. Like, that's crazy, you know? Like, it's just things like that. Or like one time jumped in a truck, was with this guy, Nick Matlin, and went down to LA, jumped in a truck with Anthony Acosta and Jeff Rowley. And, you know, driving up the roads. And I'm just like, that's Jeff Rowley. Like, that's Jeff Rowley. You know, like, oh my God, like, that's the dude, right? And we're going to this crazy half pipe metal in the middle of some field. And on the ride there, Jeff Rowley blew my mind. He goes, I was 9 years old when you came to Manchester. And I was like, what? Like, are you kidding me? He goes, and you slid the rail. And I was like, oh, you don't even know like what that was. And he goes, dude, you slid like an 11-stair rail in Manchester with no run up. And I was like, you don't even know why I had to. And he's like, what? And so in that conversation, he's like, so you felt like you had to? And I was like, yeah, because I don't know if you remember, Tony Mag was like Burt guy. And he had put his board on the railing and put like his back foot on the, like over the back truck and had his front truck, like his front foot there. And he lifted his front foot up, put it on his board and then grinded down the rail and turned to everybody like, I'm a street skater now. Like, and I was like, oh, I was so like, no, you're not. I'm like, the hell if you are, buddy cakes, you know? And so I literally, I was like, there was like 11 flat 11. And I remember I just pushed twice. And I said, you're either going to make it or you're going to sack in front of everybody, which, it's either going to be a great story or a great slam. It's doing the scoop from America, slam, pow, another right in front of us. Oh, and I slid it. And the craziest thing, Joe Burlow, rest in peace, Joe. And I don't know how he did it. He shot a 5-picture sequence of it without a sequence camera. Like, how do you do that? See, that's the thing about skateboarding, that you can go back and things are done by people like that. How do you shoot a 5-picture sequence without a sequence camera? Meaning you shot it, pulled it, shot it, pulled it, shot it, pulled it, shot it, pulled it. That is skills beyond skills. That's ghetto skills in my book. That's ghetto skills. Now, I don't have a sequence camera. I can't afford it yet. So what am I going to do? I'm going to shoot. And there's my sequence. And it was an 8th Street ad in, I want to say, one of the English mags.
Probably Rad magazine.
And when I saw it, like, emotional. Like, what? Like, oh my God. Like, because curious to that day, till I saw that, had, you know, it was kind of one of those, I did it, but I don't think anybody saw it except for the kid. If you was there. And like, and so Jeff Rowley, when I told him about that, we just thought that was amazing. Seriously, like amazing.
Well, it's that, talking to Jeff Rowley, because I remember, I don't know him at all because he was Liverpool, he was from originally, but we'd see pictures of him in the UK magazines. And like you said, he was a child, 10-year-old, 11-year-old child. And they'd always have a few pictures of him, but you didn't really pay much attention. Then when he went to America, and I think the next thing I saw then was he was on Flip. And then we saw he did that 360 flip down like 14 stairs. the sequence of that, and he catches it about 6-7 foot in the air, catches it. And I remember looking back over the sequence again and again and again, just shaking my head thinking, hang on a minute, what's going on here? What?
Well, that's what I'm saying. You're okay. England, Carl Shipman. Before there was Andrew Reynolds, Carl Shipman had the best frontside 180 flips I ever seen in my life.
He shredded.
And would do it like he could do it up and over things and on tranny and stuff. And like Shippy was one of the raddest like guys. Like I remember going to England and being like blown away by the ability that was coming. It was like, dudes, like so I always say this, I'm so glad I turned pro when I did, because there's been no way. Like I look at it now and you go, you got like, I just saw some toy machine kid. He just turned pro. I say kid, probably 25. Toy machine guy. He turned pro. His first trick for his pro model was kickflip backside, no split slide down like a hub.
It's different. It's like a computer game now, isn't it? It's amazing. It's like when I saw Chris, the Plan B video, Chris Jocelyn. When I first saw Chris Jocelyn, I'm like, it's happening again. It's taken a leap again to the stuff. I was like, dude, someone's going to die soon. They're doing stuff so big and so fast and so technical. I'm like, someone's going to get really hurt soon. But I've been saying that for years because the back gaps are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But I think that what we always got to remember is that skaters, we have always pushed those limits. And so those guys are so used to jumping down that amount of stairs. Like I remember when people were like, okay, I fell down in Dayton, my first pro contest. I fell down like a big 4. And remember, everyone was like, whoa. And then I remember thinking to myself, like, wow, that fall really was gnarly. I fell backwards, double swelbows, hit my head, whoa, right? And then I remember going to the next place that was bigger and being like, whoa, like, okay, I don't want that to happen, what just happened over there. So, it just made you have to concentrate. So you can imagine, I think now, one of the things that we noticed this year at Tampa, because we have this thing called Tamsterdam, where all the older guys kick it, and we get some guy brings beers and we kick it and have a good time. And I said, it's funny, when you're in Amsterdam, your days as being a pro are pretty much almost over. Because when you look at the way these guys are skating now, there is no partying. You're not the drunk skater that shows up and rips the contest. You're not the stone dude that comes over here and does that. You're not the pilly dude. No, none of that stuff right now. These dudes at the level of which they're at are like some amazing athletes who like smoking weed or drinking beer would mess them up in a sense. And it's funny, they come to Amsterdam and like when they come over to us, we're kind of looking at them like a shot came over and we're like, what are you doing here? Get out of here, kid. And he's like, no, I just came to say what up to y'all like that. But at the end of the day, it's those kids that I have so much respect for, because they still come over there because they just want that. They like that vibe too of that's a group of dudes that I kind of consider my homies. And, you got John Montesi over there, Tyrone Olsen. You've got like a group of guys that I would consider like just, some veterans who've been involved and been doing it for so long. And so when you roll over there, like I spoke to this one kid who like they with the scapegoat, I said, when you step off your board, they take points off of your thing. And he's like, what? I said, yeah, like keep a line, try to stay on a line. Cause when you step off, it's like a 0.5. I'm all but in the end of the contest. If you're like tied with somebody, that little 0.5 can make a difference. And he goes, man, thanks. And I'm just like, I'm thinking to myself, no one told you that.
Like, wow, you're that good, but your company dudes need to be like cluing you in that, hey, yeah, don't step off your board, don't pick up your board and run to the other side, because in those contests sometimes it's judged. So he was like, damn, thanks OG for like letting me in. And I'm like, I'm hoping I'm cluing you in because I want to see you do good in these things. Like it's not competitive when you've done it enough. You want everybody to do good. And I think that, everyone can't do good, you understand, and everyone can't win. So there's not participation trophies. But I feel like this last Tampa, I felt like I almost kind of won a little bit.
Oh, that was like when you landed that late flip, seeing the love from everybody in that room in the barn when you landed it over was just, I mean, you were just pleased enough that you landed it. That was enough. But then to have everybody throwing the boards and shouting and running over to you, I mean, that's something that you can't explain that to anybody. You can't explain that feeling, because you'd have been just as pleased if there was nobody in that room. If there was nobody else there, it wouldn't have mattered. Just the fact that it happened at that competition makes it that little bit sweeter. But the feeling you get, I've always said, whenever you do a trick that just feels right, you catch it, you land it smooth, you ride off, and you're almost amazed that you did it. You're looking around going, holy shit, did that just happen? There's nothing, no feeling in the world can beat that. There's nothing,
Yes. And it's like this, okay, I go to those contests on a real funny thing. I'm like, you got to beat your age. Got to beat your age. So if I'm 59 and a half, got to beat 59. If I get 58, I can go back next year. 57, good to go. Well, this year I got 62nd. So technically I didn't beat my age, right? But I go, this is a big but. This is a large but. This is a big but. But the idea of landing a trick like a shove it late flip in your run and getting so much love from Tony Hawk, we might enter it next year.
Oh, you got to do it again. The pressure's on now.
But it's just so funny because I had a little conversation with somebody afterwards, and I said, man, judging's harsh. And they said, what do you mean? I said, well, I landed a late shove it in my run. I got lost in the course. Like, what am I doing? I bailed, and then I landed another trick that got all this crowd response, and I got like a 62. I go, what's a man got to do in this world to get like into the 30 cut, And Brian Schaefer, who I love him, he's like, you still want to get in the 30 cut. So it's like, on one end, the magazines, you still want the cover. And then in the competitive things, you still want the 30 cut. And it's like, I'm at that age where I know it's coming down to being that outward. But the idea of 30 cut, you see, that's a win for me. If I get 30th in a pro contest at 60 years of age, I'm not going out. I'm not walking out on the course and trying to do the gnarliest tricks. I might walk out with a bottle of champagne and a table and a chair and sit down and crack it and go and point to everybody and be like, thank you so much. Thank you. Because that's how skateboarding is to me. I don't think I would be who I am without everybody there. Everyone's so chill about shit. Like everyone's like, run. And it's like, it's funny because we're doing this documentary right now. And I had this real tough thing about how truthful can one be about like racism and crazy stuff back in the past when you're still here in the future kind of enjoying it, And I said, I don't want to spend my documentary talking smack about how bad I was treated, because really in the end, I'm still here. So I was actually treated kind of good, or I wouldn't still be here. So it's been a real catharsis, real opening of my mind to be like, what do you say in this documentary? And then someone said, well, maybe you should just lay it out there and let people make their own decision. And I said, that's probably the best, because if you show what happened, but you don't say, I thought this was racist. You know what I mean? Let the viewer make their mind upon it, because a lot of things that were done, like when I was younger, I was like younger, even though I was like 24, 23 years old, young-minded. So when I say younger, I don't mean like I was young, but like I didn't know about that. Like when I was on Vision and like they didn't want to turn me pro because I got second and Kelly Roseman had won the contest, so they were turning him pro. I didn't know that Vision was like probably going, how do we even market this guy? No disrespect to them, but they were like, what are we going to do with our dude? And so I'm sitting there kind of la land, and H Street comes and makes a phone call like, hey, you want to ride for us? And so I jump onto them because they're kind of new and there's less rules, But at the time I remember being like, I left Vision And it was like, nobody left those big companies. You
Vision
know
was
what I mean?
huge. Yeah, Vision was huge back then.
But I never got, I skated with Gons once. And that was like, my whole thing was, I get to skate with Gons. And it was like, I was with Gons once in Las Vegas, and they literally had a curb with a fenced in area. And he looked at it and left. He's like, I'm skating here. And he left. And he was like a pro. He could just go to the airport and fly home, you know? I was like the AM kid. So I was like stuck there. like there was a fence and a curb at a trade show. So if you can imagine a trade show with about an 8x8 square with a fence and a curb, go get yourself, Ron. Enjoy yourself, kid. And I was just skating there. Like, and it was like, people would stop by and be like, so they won't let you just skate all over the place? It's like, nope, I have to skate right here. And this is like a trade show. And the funny thing was, this was so classic, who winds up at my booth? But the porn ladies. And they're like, skater, hey. And we start talking about cameras. And I'm like, you guys need to get a VX, man. I was never like talking to the porn ladies about, they want to go independent. They want to, like, yeah, you guys need to get your own cameras, do your own editing. And they're like, damn. I was like, y'all are hot, man. This is crazy. And then I remember just being like, I was in Las Vegas, go on skate for 10 minutes, left, and then hung out with the porn lady for a hot second, but I just skated. Like, and it was hella hot. I remember just being like, Las Vegas sucks. It was like 2:00 in the morning and it was 104 degrees. And I remember just going, why would you live here?
being from the UK, I'd probably kill me. I'd probably melt if it was anything like that. There's no way I'd survive that.
2:00 in the morning, you're skating down the street. You see the bank has the sign. It says 104 degrees. It's like, usually 2:00 it's chill.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm conscious of not taking up too much of your time, because you've been so, like I said, I was blown away when you agreed to come on, and it's been, I could talk all day. I really could. More like if there's more people, not just in skateboarding, but in general, who have the passion that you have. And it's so obvious, like I say, if anybody, whether you're into skateboarding or not, if you follow Ron on Instagram, it'll put a smile on your face every single day, because it makes, there's not a day go by that I'm not checking to see if you posted something, or, checking your stories. And it's, we're due to get a new skate park built in Swansea. A concrete park. It's taken 20 years, it's because the red ramp went years ago. We've got a really cool indoor park that a local guy who set it all up. And, the scene in Swansea has always been super tight, super fun. But we seem to be one of the last cities in the country to get an actual park, but it's going ahead now, and we're hoping it's going to get built this year. So I can't wait for that to get built, because it's got a little street course, and it's got like a triple bowl, and like it's just a nice park, and it's right by the sea as well. It's going to be amazing. So I can't wait for that to get built. So
my whole goal is, like, I love the scenery there, and I love like the places I skated there. And I'm like, man, as I get older, like I'm always like, I gotta go back. I gotta now though, I want to go back and skate and play music.
yeah. Because I mean, we didn't get into your music stuff as well, because because I know you're very big into, because are you into music in general? Because I know hip hop and MCing is your kind of thing. But then when you listen back to the music that you did for Soldier Story, it's very different. It's very progressive, very punk orientated, very musical. But then the stuff you're doing now is very lyrical. It's, so did one morph into the other, or did it just seem
transformed? It literally was like I was a lead singer, and then I started doing like I remember English Beat. Dang, what am I talking about? English Beat. Ranking Roger. I remember seeing Ranking Roger and being like, like kind of like the epiphany of that. That's what I want to do, and like being like, but I don't want to be like him, but that's what I want to do. And I remember being like, I got to figure that out. And I remember like Ranking Roger, he just passed. I have all of his stuff. That's what's funny. A friend of mine, Moose, played an English Beat. So he left Dave Wakeling. I knew about the two different bands. I knew about the English Beat in the England and the English Beat in the UK and out here and stuff. But I was a ska fan, played in a ska band, like wanted to go, just had those like, you know, the Selector, the Specials, like all that stuff was just so tight to me. I mean, it's funny because I see Hensley, and Hensley's into skinhead music from back in the day, and like, and it's just so dope that like he turned me onto it, which then it just got even deeper. Like just recently, a homie came over and was like showing me Radigan, DJ Dave Radigan, you know, and like I was like, oh my god, and like this, it's just to me music, and like there's a guy named Dan Adams who used to work at Rough Trade. And when I went to England the first year, I bought like, because they had the something sessions. I can't think of the guy's name now, but they have bands with the Mr. or something sessions, and that's why I got like the Smiths one, and I got like the Stiff Little Fingers one, and there's like these little cassettes that were like gray, but and it was just like I remember having those and going home with them like, yo, dudes, this is the Smiths of the Peel sessions or something like that. Peel
sessions, yeah.
You got to check out this. They do their own, like there's some different ways they do songs, and like check this one out. This is the Peel sessions with Stiff Little Fingers. And like so musically, when I went to Europe, to England, I was like, man, like we were in Manchester trying to go to Morrissey's house. Dude, I was a big fan of this English music. And like I remember just, you know, from ska to like, I mean, every type of English music, kind of almost like in the States, kind of got a little tired of stuff, you know? Always like looking for new stuff. And punk kind of did that to me, where you look for different punk bands, or, you know, when you realize that, you know, Henry Rollins was in this band, and all these people are connected to these bands and stuff, you're like, oh my God, you know? And I played in a ska band in college that we opened for Fishbone, and they were like,
holy shit,
come with us on tour. And I was like, let's go. And the rest of the band was like, we have 8:00 class in the morning. You know, we have to be serious. I was like, but they're asking us to go. Like,
Fishbone are rad, you know, Fishbone. Yeah.
They were, you know, and people didn't realize that. Fishbone, they all, so they'd start with 7 dudes playing this way. And then each dude would get up and move. Now the bass player, he's playing the keyboards back on the drum. They would switch. And I was like, God, you guys are really amazing musicians in general to be able to like do that. Plus your music's amazing. It's like, I don't know, we are so spoiled with Epic. Like as sometimes musically from the 90s, we got spoiled because everything we saw was Epic. And then now you get older and you're like, how come it's not Epic no more?
Yeah.
Like,
well, you got to think
well,
then you got to think how much happened in the 90s. I mean, I always look back and think how grateful I am that I was into skating through that period, because it was like 4 or 5 years of just being epically exciting and things constantly changing and evolving monthly, you know, new tricks, new companies, you know, new constantly. But then music was doing the same thing in that period as well, you know.
Well, and in skating, we were like listening to bands that like we would like watch somebody's part. And I say this all the time, music, like people's parts. Sometimes I would like, who is this band?
So important.
Like it would like watch the skating, but almost like you'd watch above the skating. You'd be like, you know, this music is really dope. Like the way it fits together. I've been back in like, I remember like maybe 10 years ago, I was like, I'm going to make a website where I just remix people's parts. And they're like, what? I'm like, you know, so like Jerry Hasu used to write to like, you know, a lot of like sort of down or like down music, downbeat, downtrodden kind of stuff. And I would like put some hip hop behind his, or someone who like used to like just skate to like hip hop and put some punk rock behind theirs and see what it would sound like, see if it would sound different. You know what I mean? Because it's like the music makes people's parts. Like there's a Jason Adams part, Enjoy, with the Clash. That the way like that is put together, to me, it's like one of my favorite video parts. I'll pull that out once a month just to watch it. That gets me stoked because of that. And it's like, it's Jason Adams in the Enjoy video, which I think he was just with Enjoy for a small amount of time, but just in that Enjoy video, Bag of Suck, his part with that music is just like, I'm like, the way it works. It's like people like, I think sometimes now we were making good music videos before MTV showed up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a lot of stuff that we do as skateboarders nowadays, I sometimes wonder if there was somebody kind of keeping an eye on what we were doing, because it seems like a lot of things we did back then are now just so accepted in society of what we've done. and the independence of businesses, the idea of doing your own art, making your own music, believing in what you're doing. It's like sort of now that whole culture is sort of like given to people, like, check this out. And it's like sometimes I don't think people know what they got and how to handle it. You know what I mean? Like,
it's the DIY culture, and what Rocco did, back in the day when he kind of started it, everyone was like, holy shit, we can. So that means we can set up our own company, do our own graphics. Business minds, they weren't quite there yet. And some of the companies came and went very quickly, but some of the stuff they did in that short period of time was timeless, will always be remembered. And what you were saying about music, like the bit that the one that sticks in my head more than any other is Jeremy Ray's part in Secondhand Smoke with Cream, like that song. And that was one of those ones that we found this, or we didn't know who it was. We found the song and then we go skating, put the tape in the car, open the doors, blast the music, because you're feeding off the energy of the music combined with the skating. And you more often than not have the best session, do the best tricks, because your energy, and you're getting into that flow state where you're not thinking of anything other than just you're working off the adrenaline and the hype. And it just worked. It just worked.
Like that's that vibe. Like that's that vibe that like I remember going to New York and having the Souls of Mischief and having like the hip hop from Oakland and the guys from New York like running down to the car, like not even saying hi, like, you got the tape. Like, yo, hi, what's up, dog? How you doing? How are things going? Yo, I know you got that. Is it Dell? Is it Casual? Who do you got? And you'd be like sitting there going, okay, it's Casual. And like, I worked for Slap, so I got to do music reviews. So I music reviewed Casual's first album, Dell's album, and the Hieroglyphics, like Souls of Mischief album. So when I got to New York, Huff and all those cats had grabbed it, ran up to Alex's house, and we're like, oh my God, the new Casual, and we were like, what? Man, we were like, why y'all so into our stuff, man? Like, what about your stuff? And they're like, and then I would be staying up 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, recording the Stretch and Bobbito shows to bring home to listen to. And it's just like, I'm like, man, we didn't realize we were probably influencing. We thought we just liked our own music and we're just doing our own thing. But we probably were bringing music up, like Ghetto bringing music across the United States that had not been released yet. You know what I mean? Like, totally. So it makes me laugh about like that kind of stuff where you're just like, I used to look to Girl Chocolate videos for the music and go, oh, wow, that song was really popular in the Girl Chocolate video. And now it's really popular in the mainstream. And I'd be like, do they have that kind of connection, or how do they do that? You know what I mean? It's like, well, they have realities that maybe they're like Spike's connected with Hollywood. So there's that connection there, or they're just lucky and they got a lot of friends that make dope music. You know what I mean? Like I saw that a lot with music. Like I saw like people get really like, at this point now, everyone has realized that you can take a song and put it on someone's music video and their skate video, and you can get just as much coverage from that song in their music video than just putting it out yourself. Almost like you could get more by putting it out for people, So
yeah, I had a friend of mine on the podcast on episode 5, and he's an MC. He lives in Amsterdam now, like really good MC. And he said he wished he'd known about skate videos when he was rapping, because he said if I could get if I got one of my songs on a skate video, it probably would have done better than me trying to sell the song through CDs and through because you've got this audience that are just going to share it
always,
and he's like, man, if I'd known that in the kind of early 2000s, I'd have done that. But he wasn't in that kind of circle, so he wasn't aware of it, totally unaware of it. But,
and that's so funny too, because he's obviously he's got skills to doing his thing, and yet it's like, if you were there, like I just saw something someone posted me rhyming, and it was the end of like a fun video, and I was like kind of like, wow. I'm like, what? Where did they get that footage? And it's like, we were putting out freestyles at the end of like, so the video's done and we have 5 minutes and run that beat, and kick a freestyle, say goodbye to the people. It makes me laugh now, because it's like, we were so about like the hip hop, making sure we were right, like making sure like you gotta have your hip hop, like, I was with a crew that was like, important to have your counts. So, and you get 16 was a verse. You had to make sure you knew how to write a 16. You had to know like 32s and 64s. And I remember being like, man, I the wrath of the math. I always thought this music was a feeling. And they're like, music is a number. And I was like, well, in the Black community, when I was like about 4 or 5 years old, I said, hey, mom and dad, how come everybody drops on the 2 and on the 4? And they both parents said, that's soul. And I went, oh. So I remember going, so when they drop on the 2 and they drop on the 4, that's soul. Oh, for a long time in my life, I'd be like, well, I know what soul is.
That's funny you should say that. There's a documentary from, I think, the 2000s called Freestyle, about freestyle rapping. And they talk to 2 or 3 guys on that. And they talk about the exact same thing that you've just said, saying it's maths, saying we work our raps by numbers and we work out what the right time to say the right words. So they work it all out in advance.
It's the wrath of the math.
But it makes sense. It makes sense on paper.
Oh my God. And if you, as you start to make songs and that 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, if you want it to sound right, that's kind of the pentameter of what you want it to sound right. And like, you can even hear it in rock music. Rock, it's on the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I used to dance. So the dance world is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the dance world double times it. The hip hop world single times it. Rock slows it down, but it's all on those numbers. The wrath of the math, and it's like that. A lot of kids I know that like were like, man, I'm not really good at math. You like music? Well, yeah. Like they go 1, 2, 3, 4. What? And like I've taught more kids that like get into music. What do you mean? Because you'd be surprised at how much math is involved, and you'd be surprised at how quick you become doing it just because you want the song to be done. You don't really care about the math. But, it's like, I remember saying to somebody, they made a beat and then it's like, oh, it was 32, but they made it 33. They had an extra. And I was like, that beat's got extra. No, it don't. Yeah, it does. How do you know? I counted it and I felt it. You see, that's another part that makes you feel good is that you feel the 8 and the 4. You feel the 8 and the 16. You feel them things. Like, I mean, maybe I don't, maybe some people don't, I don't know, but I do. You know what I mean? And so that goes back to the whole reality of, hey, mom and dad, how can people drop on the 2 and on the 4? And I can only imagine my parents were like, how does he know the 2 and the 4? Which, you know what I mean? At the time, I just was like, 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow, everyone drops on the 2. And everyone, like, so my parents told me it was soul. And then later, people were like, that's not soul. And I'm like, well, when you listen to the music, it kind of drops on the 2 and drops on the 1.
But I think and that's one of the things I think skateboarders, you do think a little bit differently because when I'm walking around the local town and you're almost always scanning for, oh, that looks like a nice set of stairs, or that looks like you're looking at your environment in a very different way. You're kind of thinking, what's usable? How can I use this environment?
My friend Jeff Clint called it urban transcendentalism. How skateboarders view their environment. Like we're weird. We'll go, dude, there's a marble bench over on 35th Street. You've got to check it out. You know what I mean? And like the normal human being will sit on that bench every day of their life for a year and never comment to their friend anything about that bench.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything to them.
At all. They could care less. We would almost freak if we were like stumble down the street and see like a piece of like a V. Oh my God, what up? Yeah, so we're aesthetic to man-made stuff.
Yeah, and you would travel. I mean, before I could drive, before I had a car, you would travel an hour to skate a curb because that was a good curb. It was higher than the normal one, and you'd skate there. You wouldn't think, all right, I'm skating 5 miles to go and skate this curb that is just a curb. It doesn't mean anything. And you could turn up with your wax and everything and you would have an amazing session on this piece of concrete that means nothing to anybody. Don't even know why it's there, but you make use of it.
That 7-Eleven and Baskin Robbins, I heard through the underground, whatever, 7-Eleven started magazines, the skate magazines, And Baskin Robbins helped them out because of the volume of kids that hung out at the Baskin Robbins and the 7-Elevens due to the Slurpees and the ice creams from skateboarding. So they would like get an ice cream, they'd go out in front of the store, lick their ice cream, finish their ice cream, and then skate in front of the store. So like Baskin Robbins and supposedly 7-Eleven were like, if we make a magazine, they'll buy it and they won't skate. They'll be reading the magazine instead of skating in front of our store where they could get hit, safety measure type of thing. Yeah. I was always like, damn. So, skateboarding is so tied to the community.
Yeah. No, it is. It is. And there's, the town like Swansea's pretty good for, I've never really had any trouble in skateboarding in Swansea. Once
they get it, once they understand, they're like, it's viable, like it's a money-making thing that people can make a career from it. They leave you, like the cops and stuff, they kind of leave you alone about it. It's only when it's like I'm still getting busted for skating places I shouldn't, like that, but that's also kind of fun too. You know what I mean? Just like, man, since you're on your ID, you're like almost 59 years old. You're like, yeah, you're like, somebody's like, you're the age of my dad. I'm like, whoa. Because I could never write my dad a ticket, man. You can just go, dude.
Yeah. You probably get away with more being you get away with more being a lot older and a lot younger. It's when you're in the middle. That's when you get in trouble.
Yeah, that's the middle of the sandwich. Don't want to be in the middle of the
sandwich. No. Anyway, well, like I said, this has been an absolute joy for me. And the fact that you're just willing to talk to somebody you've never met before on the other side of the world just is so amazing. I've got pains here from just smiling so much. It's been amazing. And I just want to, like I said, whether you follow skateboarding or not, because what I do is my job. I'm a strength coach, but like I've always looked at myself as a skateboarder, always have done and probably always will do. That's what I see myself as. I don't skate half as much as I used to, but hopefully the new skate park is going to help that out. But that's who I see I am. So I never want to lose touch with the thing that I believe has made me who I am. So being able to talk to someone who's been doing it for so long and still doing it makes me so happy just to see that, just see the legacy and just see you keep doing it and keep doing it. And it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, and I can't thank you enough for coming on, man. It's amazing.
Oh man, thank you, man. I really owe all this to my parents. My parents were two of the funniest two human beings on the planet, and they never ever would ever let you say things like, they were like, oh, I need to be like, I kind of need to retire or something. They'd be like, we talk about, I'd be like, well, I'm getting older, and like, what's older? And they would have a question instead of it. And whenever you came to something like they would say, when you say you don't know, you actually do know. And I'm like, I don't know. And they're like, actually, you do know. So these things, I think later when I got older, are really come to like, as you get older, you don't realize that they're kind of getting you ready for that. And at the time when you're 30 years old and you're saying it, or you're 28 years old and you're saying it, it doesn't, and they say it back to you, you're kind of like, what does that mean? And then you're like 58 years old and you go, oh, that's what they meant. Like, like, damn, like I used to run to them when I would see it. Like I saw Marty Grimes' photo in the magazine, and I ran to my parents and I went, yo, there's another Black person in the magazine. And my parents literally went, okay, him and you. And I went, what do you mean? They're like, well, you're the only Black person we see skateboarding, and here's the second person we've seen, right? And so part of me being prideful about being the first African American is that my parents, in a funny way, sort of like knew it. They talked to me like, what we see, like, oh my God, Mom, another Black person, him and you. Like, and so I owe it all to them, because a lot of what as we get older, we sort of like, everything wants us to give up. Everything wants us to stop. Everything wants us, from injuries to, as we get older, even our friends, the guys we've known for years, they go, good, I love you, man, but it's that joy inside that we have. Then that's, someone said, when are you going to stop skating? I go, when it stops being fun. Like that's all it is. Like I still have that 12-year-old, like literally, and I'll conclude on this, because this is like, I literally have a trick that I walk out my house where I let my board, I like lock the door of my house, and I let my board like sort of run down the stairs, and I run down to the bottom stair, and the board goes, and it goes downstairs, and then it goes, and I jump on it. And like whenever I do that, I'm always like, oh man, right out the door getting a trick, right? And the other day I slammed doing it. I ate shit. And I was laughing so hard. And like, I was like, oh my God, like I should have filmed it, because the slam was like, I jumped on it, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, wrong position. Blah, hit the ground. And I remember going, that is the rad thing about skateboarding. It's so humbling. Like right when you think, you go, I'm going to film this. No, I'm not.
The worst thing you can ever say is last go, last attempt. That's the worst thing to say. Never say that. Never say that.
You got to, I say, if you say it, just leave. Like,
just go.
Irish get by it. Like, never, if you say it, like, this is my last try, and then you, I just said it. I'm out. Walk out, like, sleep. I ain't even mad at you. I'll see you tomorrow. It's like, I ain't mad at you, because, man, how many of us have learned that? Like, this is my last try. Oh, Lord, don't say it.
Every time. And everyone else knows. They're watching. Everyone goes quiet. Everyone goes, man, he just said it. Watch. Get the camera ready. He's going to go down. And you go to, and like I said, you go to do that final trick, and that voice in your head is telling you, you just said it. You know what's going to happen. Well,
and I'll tell you, when with the shove it late flip, I went and bailed it. And literally when I bailed it, and the announcer, Paul Zitzer, says, hey, Ron, come on, Ron. And then I remember I went and I took one push, and I went towards the corner pipe. And as I went towards the corner pipe, something in my head, this is crazy, says, you're going to make this. And I remember, like, as I rolled up the corner pipe, I was like, huh? And then as I did a kick turn, I remember seeing my rider, my friend, Paul Hurtado, and he was standing next to Tyrone. And Tyrone's like, you got this one. And I remember going, yeah, because something inside my head said I'm going to make it. And then as I rolled towards to do it, it says, and after you make it, it's going to get all crazy. Okay. So I do it. I land it. I put my feet on it, roll away. And as I'm sitting like, oh my God. And it's like, get ready for the craziness. And that's all. It's like, I don't know what that means. I don't know. But all I know is something I literally 3 weeks before said, man, I'm going to Tampa. Probably my last contest. Just want to, land a shove it late flip in my run. It'd be so cool to do that. Like, I'd be so stoked if like I could get that in my run. And then to do it and have it be like that, I don't know, man. There's something divine about some stuff here, man. You know what I mean?
Like, that was meant to happen. And I bet when you did the trick, did it feel like slow motion? Like as it was happening, you were like, I've got this.
Totally quiet. Totally couldn't hear anybody. Watch the board flip. Watch myself put my feet down on it. And as my feet came down on it, like what you said earlier made me laugh, because I went, no, you usually bail, jump off. Like, what are you doing? You usually bail this trick. You just bailed this trick. You jump off. And I was like, no, I'm staying on this one. Like I'm staying on it. Like, so to me, that to me as a 60-year-old man, I don't know many 60-year-old men who have that mentality or have that feeling. That's something that is a feeling that you and I could talk about it, but on the main street, if I start talking to a 60-year-old man like that, he looks at me like, this brother here is crazy, because I do not know what you're even talking about.
Yeah, it means nothing.
So that's the greatest thing about skateboarding is that and I've had little kids go, man, that was tight. And that right there makes you stoked too, because you're like, people go, you're older, can't expect the kids to know who you are and stuff. And I'm like, no, I don't think the kids know. I didn't know who people were when I was a kid, but I know skating. And if that guy's ripping is timeless. So when the kid gives me his props, I'm like, yeah, thanks, bud. I'm getting old. I can take those to the grave with me.
Hell yeah.
I make a joke. I got 100 falls left. How many falls you got left? I got 100 like slams. I still can keep going to them. And I heard Fred Astaire, 75 years old, broke his wrist skateboarding around his Hollywood Hills home, 75 years old. So when you think you're old, think about Fred Astaire, 70, and he had a career skating, dancing, and being amazing, and no one even knew he rode a skateboard. And yet, at 75 years old, he said he liked the way the skateboard made him feel.
And it just felt natural to him, because the balance, and it just felt right.
Yeah. So like, we're not out of tune super far by doing what we do. We just like people just start, as we get older, we're kind of told not to. And I hope I'm a beacon of just say no. Just say no.
Absolutely. You're about as bright as the beacon gets, like a lighthouse. And it's like I said, it's funny how I rediscovered you through Instagram. And and every time I see you skate, it's like, oh man, I need to get on my board again. Oh man, it's the feeling I used to get when I was 17, when I was 18, when you used to watch a skate video and it used to, the energy would rise and you're like, I've got to go and get this energy out of me through this thing. And that's a shame that so many people don't give themselves that opportunity. Yeah. They've nowhere for that energy to go. So it just either stays in and then it comes out in a more negative way, or they just don't know what to do. And then, they might go down routes of like depression and things like that because they just don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to release the creativity, which I think is in everybody.
Right. And that physicalness, that breathing, that cardiovascular workout, got to help you think differently. I mean, just the physical part of it. Forget tricks, forget just getting out there, push, breathing hard. In general, it's probably better than sitting and being like, oh God, like wallowing. And so that's why I don't ever see myself stopping skating. Like I can't, with pump tracks, oh man, I can go I'm 90. But the idea of like tricks, I always tell as the kids, tricks are an addendum of fun. When you're having fun skateboarding, you just want to see if your board can do those things. You're just having fun with it. And it's like, and that's like we in camp, what made me kind of stop teaching is when parents were like, I really want him to learn this trick, or I want her to learn this trick. And you're like, whoa. The tricks are more of an addendum to fun. So if they're having fun doing a pop shove it, they're going to probably learn a front shove it or a 360 shove it because it's fun for them to do the one thing. But if they're forced, that's tough.
Yeah, it's different.
Falling is so part of it, like putting your feet on and falling. So you can't force something from someone that they can get hurt from. No, because then it kind of puts a stain on it, So I would always try to make the kids have fun. I'd always try to make it like we'd have old school day, teach them old school tricks.
That's how they learn. They learn so much more through fun and trying and falling and, I got close. Maybe if I try it this way, it'll be a bit different. And then that's how you form your own style because, and that's the difference with any board sport, skateboarding, snowboarding, surfing, anything like that is style is as important as the tricks. You look at someone like Cardiel who just charges and tweaks and does all this stuff. Then you compare them to someone like Niger who combines the tech stuff with the big stuff, and you can have someone who does the gnarliest tricks, but it just doesn't look great, and not taking it away from the trick itself.
That understanding of that style, like the style matters. It always has. It always has. And like, regardless of trick, style, Damn.
Anyway, let's call it a day there. But like I said, I could talk for ages about that. But keep shredding, keep posting, and like I said, I'm going to post links to everything, to your music, to your Instagram. So people, I think people just need to, if more people 20 years younger had your energy, then the world would be a better place. Absolutely.
Thank you
so dude, just keep doing it. And I thank you so much for talking. It's been so much fun just hearing all the stories and just hearing your.
Dude, I got a book coming out too. So when that comes out, I'll make sure I hit you up and let you know what's going on. So you can
absolutely. Yeah, I'll definitely be picking one of those up and then I'll share it around and just thank you again.
Dude, respect in every aspect.
Anyway, have an amazing day if you're going skating as well.
Of course.
Videos. And then I might have to actually start putting some videos on my Instagram of skating as well.
I want to see them. Let's go.
No handrails, no king handrails. I'm not following your stuff, but
we just have fun, man.
Anyway, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. Have an amazing day, and hopefully I'll catch up again soon.
Sounds great, man. Respect.
Yeah, and you, Ron.